Big story that we're watching for you. Certainly a rocky start for the week for thousands of Joburg Metrobus commuters who are being urged now to make alternative transport arrangements.
Yeah, absolutely. The bus company has now completely withdrawn its services due to threats that the ongoing wage strike could turn violent. The company and labour union, DeMawusa, have been locked in a wage dispute which now enters its second week today. The union accusing the bus company of refusing to meet with them. Let's get the response now from Metrobus. Its spokesperson, Goodwill Shiburi, joins us now live. Goodwill, thanks very much for your time this morning. So the accusation from DeMawusa this morning is twofold, I suppose, that the threats of violence are imagined by Metrobus. There's no such thing. And secondly, that DeMawusa has appealed to Metrobus on several occasions to go back to the negotiating table, and the bus company refuses to do so. What do you say?
Good morning to you, Michelle, and good morning to the viewers of Newsroom Africa. Yes, indeed, the strike continues this morning. We are unable to operate a single bus, and this is due to threats that have been experienced by the non-striking members. Let me just put this into perspective. The structural issues between Metrobus and DeMawusa, these goes a long way back. The employer, in this case, City of Johannesburg, as the shareholder, do not recognize DeMawusa as a union. So these are some of the structural issues that are forcing us not to anything with DeMawusa. Number two, you've got 98.6% of the staff on duty ready to work. Last week we had strike going on, but we were able to operate the service early days of last week. This week, our members have experienced threats, especially those that are on duty. So as an employer and responsible employer in the city, we are unable to guarantee the safety of commuters and the safety of our employees. As a result, the employer decided to withdraw services.
So just clarify for us, Goodwill. So Metrobus doesn't recognize DeMawusa as a union and so doesn't feel the need to go to the negotiating table with DeMawusa. But there are people in your employ that are members of this union.
There are people in our employment that are members of DeMawusa. The technicality and the structural issues are a little bit complicated. Here is the simple story. You've got 98% of the workforce on duty. And if the 98% goes out and work without threats or intimidations, you will not even be able to experience the impact of the strike. Hence, the fact that our employees have been intimidated, they've been threatened, we decided to withdraw the service. But the other issue is that South African Local Bargaining Council is responsible for the negotiations of salaries and all substantive conditions of employment. And DeMawusa is not party to the Central Bargaining Council, and that's not our responsibility to ensure that they are party. So we are unable to engage them on substantive employment conditions because there's a parallel process underway.
Yeah.
You and I know that South African local government is represented at the Central Bargaining Council. As far as the 18% salary increments are concerned, the 15,000 COVID allowance payment, the 14th check, we are unable to engage DeMawusa on such issues.
So Goodwill, you're saying, effectively 98% of the workforce is on duty. Does that mean that it's about 2% of the Metrobus workforce that belongs to DeMawusa as a union?
Let me get the accurate number. It's the DeMawusa represent 1.4% of the employees. The bulk, which is 98.6, is represented by Imatu and Samu. So those are on duty. They've been on duty. It's due to the threats that they are not willing to go out and drive buses because Metrobus has history of intimidation, death, and burning of buses where people have lost their lives. So, many of our employees still remember those incidents, and they're not willing to go and risk. You also, as an employer, the employer is not willing to put out a 3 million asset on the road without protection, given the history that we all remember.
So what happens from now on, Goodwill? Because obviously this is thousands of commuters that are affected by the fact that the buses are not on the road. How do we take this process forward?
There are, let me just start with there is a legal process that the employer is engaging on now to see if we can stop the strike with immediate effect. Apart from that, there is also a contingency plan that is being activated to ensure that at least we resolve this impasse and get to work as soon as possible. Yes, indeed, you've got over 20,000 commuters that are dependent on Metrobus on a daily basis. In addition to that, you've got schools that just open, and most of these kids are dependent on our transport to take them and to school. So we have big problems as far as the strike is concerned. The impact is big when we are unable to operate a single bus. So it is something that is in our minds. Management is working tirelessly to ensure that at least we resolve the issue and get back to work soonest.
One last question before we let you go, Goodwill. IMATU and SAMU are the two recognized labor unions who have agreed to resume normal operations. Their members are no longer on strike. Let me wait for you to get your earpiece in.
IMATU and SAMU are the two recognized unions.
Yeah.
I have a member of SAMU who also serves as a driver with me. And then, this is a full representation of the people that are not on strike. And they are here, they've been here from day one of this strike, from morning, and they're willing to work. And he is going to give just an input on how they
just hold on for 1 second, dear. Sorry, Goodwill, can you just hold on for 1 second? My question to you actually was, in terms of the demands from unions, where are IMATU and SAMU at in terms of the demands that are still being pushed by DEMAWUSA?
SAMU and IMATU are not party to any of these demands.
Okay.
If you look at these demands specifically, it's not something new. For the past 3-4 years, it's something that DEMAWUSA has been raising and indicated earlier on. We are unable to engage them on those because they negotiated centrally at the bargaining council. These are substantive conditions of employment and it's a parallel process that is happening, and we will not be duplicating that process. Unfortunately, DEMAWUSA is not party. They don't form party to the Central Bargaining Council because they don't reach the threshold required for one to represent.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this discussion. Goodwill Shiburi, I appreciate your time this morning. He's the spokesperson for Metrobus this morning. Very interesting to note, given that we have just spoken to DEMAWUSA just a little earlier on this platform here on the AM Report, when in fact DEMAWUSA, the members of that union account for about 1.6% of the total membership of Metrobus. The rest, IMATU and SAMU, account for about 98.6% of the workforce there.
Interesting perspective once you try to juxtapose the potential influence that they have on the actual workforce itself. What I want to get to the bottom of is where these threats are supposedly coming from.
Well, DEMAWUSA has denied that they are responsible for the threats.
Precisely.
But the members of IMATU and SAMU, they're the ones that are on duty. They're ready to go back to work. But the decision has been taken not to do so given the threats of violence. And, of course, the commuters are the ones that are bearing the brunt of it.
Yep, big story.